Okay, I think I got everything set up. Welcome to the stream, guys. It doesn't look like anyone's tuned in yet, but so before we go into any analysis on any charting, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. You guys know that. Everything I do in this live stream is purely for entertainment and is simply just stating my opinion. So hope you guys enjoy the content and let's go right into this. Where are we at? Okay, let's go. We'll start with the NQ. See what's going on over here. Basically, I mean, if you guys are new, I'm on a week chart right here. Let's switch this over to a daily. I just have a downtrend, channel, bottom support, and over here you can see through the downtrend, direct correlation. Now, since we pushed this high, all I did is I simply put a line, probably the bottom of yesterday, the close, which is meeting in with the previous high, and then I have a line drawn, which looks like it's getting really. Oh my God, this candle just turned green. This was, uh, wow. Yeah, so pretty much coming down to this next line down here where I would expect support, pretty much the bottom of this green candle, and after that, we had the previous high wick and this previous high and the green candle, which gets good action, and we have this uptrend right here that I'm not sure how 100% accurate it is, but I see a nice, fairly parallel channel right there. So let's go, and I could, if you guys really wanted me to, I could repeat all of these lines I drew in. It probably wouldn't take me that long, but let's go into a 15-minute chart right here. And oh wow, look at this volume coming in at the pretty much near the open. It's only 7:50, so 40 minutes till the open. Now you guys can see, I mean, look at the, let's just look at the action that corresponds off of the line. So this is your previous high right here. You do get action off of it, and you do eke back above it, but ultimately gets rejected from it. Now this is what we're trying to get through this time. You can see we have direct correlation with this uptrend, and here was your bottom support. You can see how it acts with it. Boom. And now coming right down to it, and look at the volume that comes in. A lot of green volume right here. Now looking at this, when do we go positive right here? Look at this candle. A lot of volume comes in right here, right? This is what I'm preaching right here on a 15-minute chart. Your 50 commodity right here. As soon as you go positive, throughout all of this mess right here, when do you go negative? When do you go negative? I'm trying to show you guys. As soon as you go negative, boom, right here. You are way up here. Look at all this exhaustion that you miss out on. You see that? You see what I'm trying to show you guys? This whole time you're negative. You tried to go back positive right here. Could have got faked out a little bit. Okay. And as soon as you get that confirmation, boom, straight down and back test the top of this channel. It respects this channel. And now here we are going positive. Now this is wicking. Well, a lot of volume coming into this. So you have this previous high that you're flirting with. You got people selling into this. Now, if I were to do the same exact thing, here's your previous high. Here's the bottom of that candle, and you can probably mark somewhere in between the middle of this, all of this right there, that green candle right there. If this pulls back, you got 3 candles, so 45 minutes, which is when the market's supposed to open, and you're expecting volume to come in. If it takes out this high price, or specifically this high wick, I mean, it looks pretty good for continuation. Let's see how it acts with the next thing on my chart is this downtrend right here. So yeah, I mean, you guys saw firsthand how I would have reacted to this right off the open right here. I mean, I just pulled this up. Just pulled this up, guys. Now, what I have been watching is the natural gas. So, the natural gas play is the one that I've been watching. It does not mean just go dump into this. I do own a little bit of it, but I'm expecting it to go down. As you guys can see, it was down 14% yesterday. But, I mean, if let's just go back to this daily. This is all I got on this right now. Okay, you had a channel, that channel breaks, and now you have this descending wedge pattern right here. On the longer term, you just have this long descending channel. Now this, which is what's trying to hold up, now I can see it's looking like it's going to gap down, which is what I'm expecting. I don't know how much in correlation that's going to have. I mean, honestly, we could just clear this chart out, and I like kind of how this is set up right here. So I'm already saying to myself, hey, I'm looking for this. You see this wedge pattern coming down here? You'll see it better on a 15-minute chart, I bet. But I'm expecting pretty solid support around this 5, which end of the channel, and you have this longer term channel right here that it's been acting with pretty much since existence. Since existence, this ETF exists in 2011. It's just been nothing but a downtrend. So let's go over to a daily, and you can see this wedge pattern that we have drawn. Boom, just marking the bottoms, just marking the tops, and now we're right here. Now this charting does not even really matter to me. All that matters is the natural gas futures to me. But you can see, you know, we're still comparing this to the Nasdaq, where the Nasdaq just went positive, right? This is down here negative. We're expecting it to be bearish. That's just the bottom line. Until that goes positive. But that's why you got to take a look at the natural gas futures. So let's go over here on this watch list that is getting a little bit too large, and you can see natural gas right here. Okay, now what am I expecting from Boyle with this information on natural gas futures? First off, let's go look at the day chart. I don't know if I have this completely up to date right here. Now you can see the same wedge pattern. The same wedge pattern. You guys see what I'm looking at right here? And I probably just have this marked as support. Let's go see what this looks like. Oh yeah, so I just put a horizontal line right here, basically off of the bottom of these wicks. Now just for this example, let's just run this all the way across. So not any like complete direct correlation, but right here you can see nice bounces. Now this is probably 250 bounce. So realistically 250 on natural gas is probably more of a level, but I probably just marked the bottom of these wicks. Okay, but you can see a lot of correlation, and some of them are just going a little bit below. You can expect that to just be test of 250 right here, test of 250. Boom, direct correlation right there. Boom. Now, we are seeing a lot of bounces off of it, but you're also seeing rejections off of the bottom of it as well. Boom, 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 boom. All kinds of action off of that. Now, what do we have down here? Same story. This is probably your 150. So if I were to mark this straight off of 150, give or take right there, you can see all sorts of action off 150. So just because natural gas is down here at a support level doesn't mean that natural gas can't end up falling further. So I want you guys to be clear with that. But natural gas has been getting a lot of volume into it. Boyle specifically, I think yesterday had another 47 million bought and sold. But you can see we tried the eke positive right here. You're back negative. You do set closes. I'm sure you had people ready to buy a breakout at this price had the price gotten there. But just the selling pressure that's coming in. You can see this candle. And this, realistically, this is exactly how you'd want it to set up right here on this candle. But there is one problem, and that's the increased selling pressure. You see how high this selling pressure is right there. Now it gets followed up with a nice volume green candle, but same story. Uh, Next candle following up, we got another 12 minutes on this, and you can see the volume on this jumping. Like, look at this, was the oils or the futures leading up all the ways to this, and now the volume is picking up right here as it's holding this 260, which is what we've come down to before. Boom. So anyone that's looking for natural gas is saying, I do not want this price to come down below this. But you can see here is your coiled down wedge. Here's your wedge pattern. Now it probably could be moved a little bit to like the bottom of that. And this looks pretty good, so maybe I could adjust that a little bit better. But you guys get the gist, is that, realistically I could see this continuing to follow this wedge to the downside, and who knows, what if it were to break over top of that? I can see we have, here's your previous low right here. You could say this is your previous low, but what else do I see right here is we have this nice gap fill. So if we zoom in and mark this gap, so we're just going to mark this gap, and let's say it is able to push over the course of this time, and then here we are with this downtrend near this gap. That is going to be a big no-no. Like, that is going to be like anyone who's getting in right here, early breaks of positive, and right now they're saying to themselves, oh, no, not yet, not yet. You can see it would need to see buyers come in off of this. So expect sideways consolidation right here unless this support gives out, then we have a ways down to that 250. So that's what I'm looking for with natural gas. Now let's look at oil because oil got a little bit of a bearish look. But like natural gas, you can see this descending wedge pattern right here. Now let's go look at the daily chart on oil. I'm not really sure how this chart's going to be set up if I'm being honest with you. But you can see here, nothing's really changed. Here's your descending wedge, or your ascending channel right here. Now what happened during this little run right here is that we went positive positive. So if I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Boom. You guys should be able to see that. Now, where do we go positive? You have this little sideways capitulation period right here. Now, you do come positive out of this. Now, you're expecting volume to come in. Respects this uptrend, or the top end of this channel. But also, I don't have it marked in, but I'm pretty aware of it as I've looked at this chart many times, is that you have a downtrend right here. And this is your third point of contact. So, that third point of contact, respects it, and it double tops off of it. So oil a little bit bearish, and we are just going negative negative, but I do see a nice wick off of this. But right here, this wick is the sellers as well. They're saying, we're below our EMA right here. 78.50 was supposed to be a level. It was a level over here before we had that little bounce, and 78.50 gave up. Boom, just like that. So it's going to be interesting to see this probably continue to the downside more than likely. And I don't know how accurate this wedge pattern was. We just had it connected right there. Maybe it's supposed to be more like that. And this is saying, hey, when we get a cross right here, boom, right off your uptrend. So I like when I see these patterns and then you actually have that uptrend. But the same way that third point of contact right here, that third point of contact on this uptrend is going to be interesting to see how this fight plays out. But in a scenario where, I will say on this 15-minute chart as well. Look at this 15-minute chart. See how we're just stair-stepping away? Now, we did just eke positive on that as well. And this is the candle that's coming in now. It's just slightly negative right here. But I want to see how it would act with this. If it's able to take out this wick top right here, that would be a pretty interesting look. And maybe it just needs to trade sideways a little bit, get that confirmed higher low around, 77 flat. Could be a level. I'm not 100% sure on that, but uh, nice green candle right here off of the bottom end of this range. And we do have a line drawn in right here. So you can see this line. When I see a nice W pattern like this, and then it exceeds over top of this high, this is called a neckline. So I have a neckline drawn in at this 76.50, and maybe we can put that right off of 76.50, like right there. That's 76.53. If we move that down just a little bit more, right there, 76.50, you can see where do we come down to? We trade pretty much right down to that neckline, and volume starting to pick up for the most part right there. But as I said, it just barely eked positive right here. It's going to need to, okay, so goes on a run, builds a U shape, but you have no confirmed higher low on your commodity channel right there. And you're setting lower lows on your commodity on your 25. So is it ready to go yet? Maybe trade sideways and get a confirmed higher low right here. It would be more interesting to me. And I gotta see it break this downtrend that's been respecting right here. So, yeah, a little bearish on oil today, but I did look at the Exxon Mobil uh, earnings report, and it was pretty damn good for the most part. They returned a lot of value to shareholders, bought back a lot of shares, had the dividend, and set record levels I think, record levels since 2012 or something like that. I mean, I can go jump into some earnings reports if you guys wanted to. But those are the three major markets that I like to look at: Nasdaq, natural gas, and oil. And right now, I'd say oil probably a little bit bearish. Okay, we'll have to adjust some of the positions maybe. Um, but we feel like we still have pretty fairly good support here. So pump the brakes a little bit on the oil, and the natural gas is pretty much just a watch for me. I really want to see just how it acts around that level. And the NQ. So of the three, the NQ definitely looks the best. No question about it. No question about it. And look at the continuation. So this, when we were watching it, right, it was wicking. It was wicking. Now, that wick had come down probably close to this, and people are buying the middle of that green candle, and this is the reaction that we're getting right here. Nice volume increase, and we do go positive, positive. Let's look at the daily chart for this NQ right here, and you can see the early signs. You can see the buying pressure. We drew a bunch of red lines in here, right? This is right at your previous high. You see how this is just meeting up at your previous high, and now, uh, and if this is an ascending channel, and this is an accurately drawn, look at this. Here's your descending channel. Now, do you see how it varies away on the bottom end? We only really have 3 points of contact, and we never get there again. And you can see, boom, right there. You're expecting, okay, maybe we just trade in this wedge pattern, but now we're breaking out of this channel. You see that? And now all it would take is, if you take out this wick high, let's pull that wick high all the ways across. You guys see this nice W pattern? Now, if we do get a price that can get up to like this next high, there's your W pattern right there. Is this ever going to come down? Now, let's say you do get a price that elevates up to this range, and what happens if it comes back down to this level and still respects this uptrend? So let's say we're talking about a price that's meeting up uh, off the bottom down here. It says April 20th. So that'd be 420 if that met up at the middle of this. Now this isn't necessarily properly drawn by any means. So now our date is April 14th on a Friday. If it were to be meeting up inside of here, could you imagine me calling that out on stream and nobody's listening? That's fine. Let's take that out. That's just way out in advance. Realistically, at the end of the day, what's the big key? Where's the where can you expect the volume to be? And we're positive, positive. We have a nice uptrend, and on a 15-minute chart, we're positive, positive. And now look at the volume coming into the market right here. And today was a pretty big earnings day. If I were to, let's just go pull up and see if I can look at any other earnings reports. Nasdaq earnings. Okay, what do we got? What other earnings reports? So I should go take a look at the watch list. We got 24 minutes. Probably gonna wrap up the stream before the pre-market here. But let's see what the pre-market's looking like. So right now, oil down 3%. Not surprised in the slightest. HKD up 3%. Let's go take a look at that and see if I was looking at it at the end of the day. I knew it had that 10. I can't find it. There we are. Let's just clear out the drawings. I already know it's got a 10 gap. It's basically right off 10 flat. It doesn't show it off 10 flat. Let's go to the daily. Yeah, so here's your close right off 10 flat. Some of these charts are just a little off. And you can see we got very close, damn close to it right there. Uh, but a potential gap up right here. At the end of the day, okay, it catches a little bit of a bid. It did not quite get positive, positive, but this gap up is going to send it positive more than likely. Is it going to try to retrace this gap? Which here's your previous wick high, and here's your gap. So 1022 to 1017, is it going to sell off, or is it going to catch volume maybe at this previous high right here? So maybe just a pullback to like 1030 starts to build a U shape. All it would take is to break that wick high. Let's see what else we can find. Um, Looks like we are going to have some green opens. Now, for the most part, everything was down. We had some green in the portfolio, but for the most part, everything was down. My earnings report is not showing up. Okay, so Exxon was number one, Pfizer. So PFH. I can see that's getting a gap down. You know, it looked bearish. It stayed bearish. We can go take a look in going into earnings. So this is going into earnings. Keep this in mind. Where's Pfizer? PFE. PFE right here. So I can even see they beat on the earnings side of it, just missed a little bit on revenue, but it looks like it's going to get a gap down. Now, why is that? Here's your daily chart. See how low down here you are? Now you could say, okay, I'm looking for this to act as some sort of trend line, but on the grand scheme of things, longer term is always going to take the crown. Always going to take the crown. Now you could say that this is a level. If I look at this support right here, boom, you could call this a level. Now pre-market, look at where we're opening at. Now do we have any gap fills right here? I do see one gap. You're gapping down completely below it. Expect continuation. And now what's the volume going to look like? Call it a 42 flat. What's the volume going to look like off of 42 flat? But we're already telling ourselves, hey, long-term trend lines down here. You know, that would bring it down to, you know, maybe 40 flat. So yeah, a little like they probably have decent earnings. They probably bought back shares. They probably announced something about a dividend. But what did they just get done paying as well is dividends. So people that got their dividends, you know, maybe that is why you were getting excess sell off. But then you could say, okay, when this dividend actually gets distributed, uh, what's the price going to be when it gets distributed? Is going to be a big wonder. What else we have? We have McDonald's reported earnings, so that I don't have that one on the watch. So MCD, McDonald's Corporation, I can looks like, you know, pretty impressive earnings. Competitive advantage companies. So McDonald's is a company that definitely has a competitive advantage. So what does that mean? They, in a sense, one of the big things that I would say is they have pricing power. Now, even with these earnings, McDonald's uh, did just go positive, and you're expecting this price to hold. So with the earnings, you know, it's a little bit of a shock that, you know, nice beat on earnings. They're positive. You would expect this to eventually take out this price. Now, why hasn't it? Yeah, I mean, ROE gap fill right here is what I would say is, you know, not the most healthy chart. It's pretty extended, goes on a run, builds a U shape. So that's your catalyst. You know, down to this gap, or here's your U shape that's starting to pan out. Uh, yeah, and it's pretty much at all-time high prices, guys. I mean, only so much that they can do. What else do we have? We have UPS. So let's go take a look at UPS. I don't remember the last time I looked at this chart, but I can see flirting with this, you know, goes on a run, builds a U shape, kind of like McDonald's. And let's see, it looks like right in line with estimates. Maybe they miss a little bit on revenue. Okay. Uh, but I can see it does have a nice uptrend right here as well. So breakout price, you know, you're expecting this, boom. Now higher low, confirmed higher low. If it takes out this wick price right here, you're expecting this to, you know, at least test these highs right here, and maybe even this high. So representing from current price, it's gonna gap up, maybe back test 180 flat. So we'll try and go from 180 flat. You know, 2% for your breakout price, 4.5%, 6%, and 10% to the downtrend. So not terrible. Let's see what else we got. Is there anything crazy? Hussa oil play filled the 360 gap and getting up 3%. That one, like I said, oil is just in an interesting spot, and I would just be careful with the oil plays. I'm not the most worried about them, if you want my honest opinion. Farmers with a big gap up at 6.4%. Now this was one that we have been watching. I thought the earnings was decent, but apparently some other people didn't, and you can see right there. But here's where you're expecting previous support. You know, goes on a run to the downside, builds a U shape. Okay, now we're getting a 6% gap up. Now, increased volume off of this earnings. So, anybody who said to themselves, hey, I kind of like those earnings that they had, um, now it's going to gap up. And what's our gap up price at right here? 1465. So, here's your gap fill. It's going to gap up completely over top of this. Now, the question is it going to sell off at the open? I can see that gap's filled, this gap's filled. So to the upside, aside from this gap, which gap down from earnings, anybody who went short off of this for an earnings play, boom, 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 3 green candles right now. Now you're getting a gap up. Anybody who went short off of this earnings report losing money. And this gap up, it's going to be potentially sending them to this positive. Let's look more long term. You can see it's been respecting this channel. So the odds that this channel is set 100% accurate, what if it's supposed to be set like this? You could be saying that this is right off this trend line right here, and that your potential extension is, a nice parallel channel right there. If you're even talking about getting back up to these upper teens, I mean, we're talking 30% run, and right around the corner, pretty hefty dividend that they increased. They kept the same, but increased, an increasing dividend. Now that's pretty nice growth right there. That's almost 50% growth right there. And this is just back in 2021. So yeah, interesting that that's getting a gap up. I was not expecting to see that at all. I can see AOS. Now we did cut the position on AOS into the earnings. Yesterday was just a crazy day. We already had some decent outs. Where's AOS at? Here's AOS. And you can see where's your positive break. This was early in January. One of the first trades we actually took in January. Boom. Had some decent outs into the downtrend. And what do we have over here? Previous high. We were expecting breakout. I don't think we had any cuts up here. But then what do? We eke negative. And we had some trims back up at this 60 flat. But just into this earnings report just didn't look good. So we cut the rest of the position. We might even actually get rewarded a dividend. I didn't even see they had the dividend on the day. But earnings actually look pretty good. Nice beat. And right in line with revenue. I'm sure there's other stuff in there. But not the worst look. IIPR. This is one that we have been watching. Um, Simply because, I mean, we like the margins that they have. They are paying a pretty solid increasing dividend as they are a REIT. So they got to pay 90% of their earnings. But here's your nice little bump off the dividend now. Anybody who got in for this dividend, they're like, okay, let's take some nice profit. Boom, big gap down, and gave out a newer low. So what do I see with this? I see a downtrend, and you could call this fairly decent support. How is it going to act? Is it going to give this up? And I'm sure there's gap fills on this run up here. Not the greatest look. It's a falling knife. It's just on watch right now. But getting a gap up, we want to see this get back up towards this positive. Who knows? Maybe we're talking about potential outs into this downtrend up at this gap fill at 110. If this made a run to 110 from current price, I mean, that's why it's on the watch list, guys. What else we see? Fastenal is one that we have been dipping into simply because I like the earnings report. I'm not as worried about it, but we were expecting a little bit of a fight right here. So you can see the descending channel right here, but on the longer term, boom, you have this nice ascending channel. Now we're setting confirmed higher lows, not only just from this low, but boom, off of the earnings day that we liked. And we're getting ready to get paid a dividend on it. So expect a little bit of sell off after that, maybe, who knows. But we did go positive, and we're still positive. Now the levels, I had this 49.50, which was a level right here. It was a level right here, and we actually bought some shares of this yesterday, and it actually ends up going a lot lower than we expected. Okay, at the end of the day, ugh, this uptrend maybe not the greatest right there. It was off of that trend, but could be due for a pullback down to this. You got the dividend, okay. But if the NQ wants to keep running, okay, can it take out this high price and break through this downtrend that's been getting rejected off of since 2021? It'd be an interesting little setup to see this U shape, and then we're talking about breakout price at this 53.50. So I'm not giving up on it. Looks like it's gonna have a little bit of a bid at the beginning of the day, but I'm not surprised. Ooh, Ploop Group or a Pulte Group, a stock that I've taken profit on, and we actually cut the position. Probably shouldn't have because it's actually one of my favorite companies. And I said to myself, I want to buy some cheaper. Oh wow, look at that. Look at that. Huge beat. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they bought back a good chunk of shares as well. Goes on a run, builds a U shape. Why'd we cut the position? We said, it's got a nice downtrend right here. Let's just cut it. We got really good entries on this, and let's see how it goes. We felt like we could deploy the money elsewhere, but now look at this gap up. We're gonna gap up over top of this. We're gonna be talking about this up at upper 50s here before we know it. But huge run on Pulte Group. Goes on a run, builds a U shape. That is what we're expecting. But the earnings, sometimes you just gotta continue holding it even though it's an elevated price. Because I mean, we haven't seen anything that has disappointed us in Pulte Group ever. So yeah, that's a bummer. But it is what it is. I don't see anything else. Oh boy, on the trending, I see Motorsport Games. Now, every time I pulled up this chart, I told myself, why do I even have this on the watch list? Why do I even have this on the watch list? This is why, guys. Look at this massive gap up. Now, all we were looking for was breakout price of 450. We never got it. Never got it. And we were way down here. This is almost a 200% gap up right here. Are we talking a confirmed higher low potentially right here? Oh boy. 750. 182%. Wow. So we will have that one on the watch list. That will be right at the top for gainers today for sure. PSX looks like oil. ExxonMobil is down. PSX was down. This was a live trade that we took at some point in the day last week. And looks like gap down to this 105, but I do see nice wicks up into here, so we're gonna see how this works. And it does have a nice uptrend as well, so maybe potentially down to this 100. Okay, let's see how it acts with the 100. Here's your rejection at the previous high, and I do see a gap fill right here, which we did have outs at. I think we had 110.50 outs, and holding the rest of the position. If this wants to continue going, I should probably look at this earnings report. Let's see how they did. Pretty much right in line. Not the most alarming. Missed on earnings a bit. Let's go look at the ExxonMobil again. I don't quite remember exactly what they did. Right in line. Look at the EPS difference on some of these. I mean, that's bringing in the money right there. So you guys can feel how you want to feel about oil, but I'm not going to get shaked out of any oil at this point. Let's take a look at Boyle. Looks like Boyle is actually let's close this show out with natural gas because this is going to be one of the main things I'm watching all day. is natural gas. Oh, we can talk about a new position. We took an early entry, just a small position on Mercer International. Now I'll show you guys the entry right here. We identified it. It was on the watch list. Boom. Here's your positive break right here. Now, the only thing I didn't like is that it didn't have higher volume right here. So, zooming into this a little bit. But one, direct correlation with that. False, a little bit of a false breakout now, builds a U shape. Now we do break back positive, positive. Now this candle is where we took the entry. We were expecting a 1250 break, but just never got it. And ended bearish. We held the position because we said to ourselves, okay, on the daily chart, all it would take is for this uptrend, and there's multiple trends right here. You can tell the positions that I'm always currently looking at. Well, that's a downtrend, but we do like this, and here's our potential out. In a scenario this just rolls over? Okay, we got to stop at 12 flat. I take a bit of a hit on it. Okay, it was just an entry level, but they do have earnings coming up as well, and expected pretty decent growth. Well, you go to the year over year growth, we're talking about 515 up to 542. Now, consistent beats. If they beat on revenue, okay, that looks pretty good. And the dividend also 7.5. Is it an increasing dividend? Let's find out. And it's an increasing dividend. This increased by about, what is that percentage? About 18%. So yeah, after they paid for more, are they going to release anything on this for another increase of another cent? Maybe they only increase half a penny. A half a penny increase would only be about 7.5%, give or take. I'm probably off with that. But if they increase another whole penny, then we're talking about a 14% increase on dividend. There's your inflation coverage. As they increase their dividend, that is your hedge against inflation, dividend growth, because the dividend growth exceeds the inflation. And let's take a look at natural gas before we wrap this up, and maybe the NQ futures as well. Going into the day, I'll state what I'm expecting. So yeah, continued a little bit of sell-off, but at the end of the day, how is this going to hold up? Is it going to leave a wick like that? I'd be interested to see that. So on a 15-minute chart, you can see, oh man, followed up. It wanted to break down. Look at this volume increase, guys. Now, it tried the EK positive. Now what happens if it exceeds that high? This is what I was talking about on the commodity channel, where it is, you see how we're setting kind of a trend line on that commodity. Now, if that takes out this higher highs, that's where I'm looking for this 270 break on natural gas. If we can get that, it looks pretty damn good. And if it holds this level, especially, this never broke down for a newer low on natural gas. Yeah, it's just a wick bottom, and you're expecting that wick bottom to give up. But I'll be damn, it freaking held strong just about 10 minutes ago. So yeah, natural gas, keep it on a watch because the potential run on boil. I mean, this is just, if you've been taking profits on your other plays and you're sitting and your positions are sitting comfortably, comfort level for you. I mean, if we're just running this up to this gap, I mean, I showed you guys this gap earlier. If we're just running this up to this gap, 15%. Well, I see another gap right here for 33%, and my next bottom end of the channel that it previously traded in, 70%. I mean, that's all seeable on a 15-minute chart. We look at the daily chart, we're talking about prices down here. Just to your previous low right there, 300%. So we're feeling a little frisky. We're trying to bottom pick, which is a very risky thing to do. And I don't advise it. I really don't advise it. But if you're at a comfort level with all your other positions and you're sitting on a little cash, maybe a starter position on something that can run 300% isn't terrible. But expect this to come down to that 5 level. If I were to, there we are. You see, here's the bottom end of the channel with a wedge pattern down to it. Maybe not today. Maybe when we're down here at this 5 to 450. So keep it on watch. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a screaming buy by any means, but it is getting a lot of volume. You guys can see the volume right here. So that's going to call it for the stream. I'm glad for any of those who tuned into it, and we will see you on the